Jigar Shah is crazy optimistic about solving climate change. He's known for being a disruptor in the clean energy space, and I got to sit down with him at Amy Brandewine's Centrolina. I'm Monica Trauzzi. This is Off the Menu. I love Centrolina. Have you ever been here before?
I have. I like this whole area. I remember when it was an empty parking lot.
You have been an advocate for solar for a very long time. You started SunEdison in 2003. What do you think the biggest challenges are for solar?
Well, the funniest thing is that we were so overlooked for so long that now everyone's making arguments around, but you can't run 100% of everything. And I was like, I was just trying to get to 1%. And now you're like putting on my shoulders, like running everything.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't know. I don't want to run everything. I think a diversity of electricity, like solutions, is a great idea. I just thought that being at 0.0001% was not a great place for solar. We needed to be at like something a little bit bigger than that. When you think about what happened in 2011 through 2016, something on the order of 50 to 75% of all new electricity capacity was solar and wind, right? And so that means all the lawyers were making money on solar and wind, and all the accountants are making money on solar and wind, and the Wall Street was focused on solar and wind. And so even though we only put in 1% of our electricity capacity, or 1.5% of our electricity capacity every year, so it's a minuscule portion of what's already operating.
Yeah.
That's what everyone's talking about, because that's the new steel in the ground.
So we know the IPCC has told us that we have very limited amount of time to figure out what we're doing about climate change. We hear the presidential candidates talking about it. Do you think that we're focused on it enough?
Well, we finally are now.
Yeah.
I mean, my sense is that we did a lot of work. I mean, the nuclear industry, the energy industry, et cetera, all of us together in 2007 getting ready for that presidential campaign. We just didn't have the people behind us then. It looks like the Sunrise Movement and those guys have done a great job. Greta Thunberg was in DC this last week, and so I think she's done a great job. And so we're now at a point where we're forwarding solutions to problems, and frankly, a lot of them involve government. The other thing that makes me most hopeful is agriculture. There seems to finally be some recognition that farmers are part of the solution, and that there's a way to sequester carbon in the soil and do things that they're frankly really good at. Even though, sometimes the data doesn't support it, I continue to be crazy optimistic, because it's just, I think there's actually a lot of solutions to be deployed, and I do think it's going to be one of the largest wealth creation opportunities of our time.
I recently heard you on a podcast say that Goldman Sachs has a fund for solar, they have a fund for wind, they don't have a fund for nuclear, and that nobody wants to invest in nuclear. What's the conversation that needs to happen with the Goldman Sachs of the world about investing in advanced technology?
Well, so the first plant that uses any of that kind of technology is sort of 2025 maybe, right? And so I don't know that I have enough information to answer the question until 2025, and I see how that goes. But I think the NRC is a problem, clearly. It takes forever to get something, fully approved. So even if you wanted to do something, let's call it over the next 10 years, because I don't know how most people think like 50 years out. 10 years is hard enough for me.
Right.
Like, you probably have to do it on a military basis, right? Because that's who can get sort of like waivers from the NRC, right?
Is there something that all the carbon-free energy technologies like wind and solar and nuclear need to be doing better to work together to get to a clean energy future?
I think it's important to realize how we got here. On the one hand, the electric utility industry owned most of the nuclear plants, and we're not necessarily the friend of the environmental community who passed most of the renewable portfolio standards in 2003, 4, and 5, right? So nuclear and clean energy weren't really friends for a long time, because their advocates weren't friends.
Right.
In the 2015 tax extenders bill, well, I don't know if it was tax extenders, but we sort of opened up oil exports. The clean energy industry broke from its environmental sort of forefathers and supported that bill to get the long-term extension of the ITC and PTC. And we've never looked back. So I think a lot of the old nuclear folks think that, we're still a bunch of enviros when we were never really enviros. They were just the ones who passed the bills for us.
Yeah.
And now they don't do that anymore. Like, we pass our own bills now.
Well, this was fun. Thank you
Yeah,
for joining
it
me
was
for
great.
lunch today. This was great. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thanks.